This mostly one-way communication system is rough, so please forgive me if I don't get to all your questions and concerns. I have to discern those out of thin air, so to speak. Upon recording this, it is my ancestor Thor's Day, July 13th, 2023, and I'm Melissa Cody Prater. Welcome to Egg-Gnosis, Part 13, Focus on Environments, Bridging the Future, where we highlight some godly environmental aspects of Zen in business. This presentation is produced by Capetronics Dimensional Art, which is sponsored by WhoHub.tech and WhoHub.world. WhoHub is a software product concept by Capetronics R&D Energy. The artwork you will see in this presentation is AI generated using scientist Brian David Prater's formula for over unity. For more information about how this art is produced, I would suggest you watch a previous video titled Architectural Over Unity Artistic Concepts if you're interested. Peering deep into the looking glass, these concepts today encourage everyone to look within. Pay attention to the small details as well as the large landscape, or in this case, 5D chess. Unlike some recent videos, this presentation is not going to be a lot of reading for you. Rather, I want you to enjoy the visual experience and hopefully take some useful information with you from it. As far as WhoHub is concerned, I feel this is going to be one of the most important and potentially pivotal presentations so far. In this introduction, we explore underlying social concepts that divide us. Next, without hesitation, we jump right into battle reports from Bot World, where we spend the entire presentation showing how engaging the software can be with a focus on environments, employment, business goals, polymath team structuring, merits, and more. Then we'll delve into the harder topic of climate science and address some issues and solutions that WhoHub can offer. Also, before continuing, I would like to make a correction about the story about the pilot and the stars. It was science fiction and not fact. If I had an actual staff to help me with these things, they could have noticed my mistake because it stated it in the post I provided in the last presentation, part 12. Since these presentations are lengthy, and it's been about a month since the last overall review, this is a good time to go over some highlights that I extracted about WhoHub humanitarian software specifically that are important to keep in mind now and in the future. So in review, from Part 9, WhoHub humanitarian software topics included WhoHub centers and ambassadors, some requirements and expectations for programmers, the Angel system and Ninja system, and quantum voting. In Part 10, we've delved into WhoHub gaming environments, what it means to be a stakeholder, and WhoHub's social media concept, which ties into the gaming environments also. And just like the title of Part 10 implies, it covered some cybersecurity information, and it described the WhoHub and Job Hut centers for local involvement with business and the public. Next, reviewing Part 11, it disclosed quite a bit of new technology that we've tried to keep under wraps for a while. Specifically the topics that go along with WhoHub as a software. In Part 11, it includes what we refer to as the slipstream and genealogy-themed gaming environments. Lastly, in Part 12, vital to WhoHub, included the discussion of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is a part of WhoHub's focus on the people and their needs. Part 12 focused on communications, speech, and language. and it includes information about WhoHub's concept for a new type of content delivery system. The presentation offered some business analysis for those that may be interested, and it elaborated on how the advertising and polling can provide a new competitive market against hungry capitalists. What do we call what we are going through? Is it too early to give it a name? If it is given a name, will that help people understand it and move on? It's just some questions to think about as we try to figure out the way forward together. This presentation is going to address the difficult topics in society regarding the economy, culture, and the weather. This presentation's over Unity artwork features conch shells, octopuses and sea life, architecture inside crystal balls, and Zen bonsai. Let's begin. This is a short list of some of the divisions that create chaos in our world. Most of you are probably familiar with these opposing forces already, so I won't go into much detail in this introduction, except to establish them as part of the problems I see as obstacles to sound judgment. To cut right through the matters, I think the dividing line could be drawn between the humane and inhumane, regardless of the narrative or propaganda tactics. WhoHub seeks to show the world a new method of exchanging energy that rewards creators rather than suppresses them. It is necessary, as we move forward, to look within and seek wisdom, because in these dark days, we must closely examine what divides us and why. In the debate, nature versus nurture, the question is argued whether someone is born good or bad, or if their circumstances, upbringing, and environment were the major contributors to behavior. It is a bit of both, and the debate shouldn't even exist. For the willing human participant, the matter really is between opportunities or not having them. By now, most people are aware of the division between our labor and the economic controls. Our work is energy into a system that withholds most everything for its richest participants. Yet what if there was a way for the system to be controlled by the same people that generate the energetic wealth instead? That is how WhoHub is meant to function in the long run, and we will get into that more in this presentation. However, the point I want to make is that our current economic structure is broken, and I do not mean that figuratively. WhoHub rather will be somewhat of a closed-loop system that redistributes the wealth as a business model, because we believe that is how life on Earth should function for humans, that money be easier to come by, and that our contributions are received, acknowledged, and rewarded. Many, probably most of us, do various types of unpaid work, but we're at the mercy of the companies or otherwise to deliver a return for our efforts. Even media creators these days must contend with the algorithms and rules of companies like YouTube and Rumble in hopes to derive some monetary income. I won't go into the severe suppression of views and the fishy algorithms those bots use to control our lives and money. However, I want to establish this point: seeking money for the sake of seeking money is part of the evil systematic divisions. WhoHub aims to revert that through anti-greed, which will put people in control of how and when they get paid. For anyone interested in becoming a programmer for WhoHub, I would suggest you watch these videos carefully, because I'm constantly dropping hints and clues everywhere. Obviously, I cannot put all the information together, or else it would help the bad guys a bit too much. Until funding materializes, these videos should be considered training materials that inspire and catalyze action in the correct direction. The links on this slide are references to the Agile Manifesto, which is a one-page informative list of fundamental principles that structure and describe Agile teams. The second link goes deeper into cognitive programming processes. I recommend these links to potential programmers especially, or anyone interested in being a director of one of the 29 departments for WhoHub, which will include research and development. As discussed in previous videos in this series, memory is the base of everything. Everything already exists, but it's like electricity which is activated by a switch. For example, this world doesn't pay attention to the good things we do, but it is quick to respond to the negative deeds. Like how my mailman keeps giving me some other guy's mail. It happens so often that I usually just throw the stuff away, unless I see that it's important, like the paperwork from the local tax office, as known by the sender's address on the outside of the envelope. I tried to put it back into circulation, but the mail person keeps sticking it back in my box. So I finally wrote on the outside of the envelope, "Return to sender," which I know the post office hates because they told me so. However, only then, when I do something that they hate, do they finally pay attention, usually to scold me. However, the truth is that they force me into doing something wrong. In order to correct the actions, I had to serve it back to them, like ping pong, to trigger their memory. My wrongdoing acts like a reset button in this inverted world where cause and effect systems display instant and opposite waves of reaction to our real-world behaviors. It is a demonic construct, like I've said before. Today's presentation starts off with the battle reports, because if you have stuck with us, by now you must be a hardened warrior, and therefore you already know that everything we do is part of the war effort. The bots are not amused. Humor causes conflict in bot world. It joggles the mind and delivers an uneasy and queasy feeling like seasickness. So get your vomit bags ready, because we've sprung a leak at WhoHub. We're offloading years of research, data, analysis, and hard work as a tactical strategy against bot world, which is the demonic construct that activates like ping pong, creating a negative abstracted reaction. And this is the place we find ourselves deep in battle, tackling the hard, unresolved problems of our time and technology. If you will stick with me throughout this presentation, we may overcome some of these evilly seated divisions within our human ranks. I intentionally make these presentations as whole packets of information, extra chunky for a great reason, and that is to bridge a huge expanse between compartmentalized nodes. By lumping everything together as vital packets of bundled relational data, it requires extended efforts for the bots and others to tear it apart, dissect, and distort into distributed bits of abstracted news. I believe it slows down the reaction of thwarting the message also. So if you're going to steal our tech, you're going to work for it. This section covers much more than the title WhoHub Merits Verification System. Yet the focus here is to present my clam, so to speak, or in this case, how people get paid, as full-time and part-time employees, as well as WhoHub users who accept on-the-fly remote job tasks. This process will be threaded into real-world economic systems, therefore requiring up-to-date verification methods. This section will also briefly discuss employee placement testing within the gaming environment. According to Wikipedia, a polymath is an individual whose knowledge spans a substantial number of subjects, known to draw on complex bodies of knowledge to solve specific problems. Another name for polymath is a universal human, or one who has learned much. As you can see from this chart, which I took from, I think, Wikipedia years ago, a polymath is someone who has completed a level of comprehensive mastery of multiple compartmentalized fields, and then merge those sciences into emergent technologies like the one we're projecting and building now. WhoHub Agile teams will look for people who have a wide spectrum knowledge pool to include philosophy, linguistics, anthropology, neuroscience, artificial intelligence, and psychology. And I would also include computer science, networking, and business, to name a few more aspects that are key to WhoHub. In systems engineering, we believe that everything is relatable in some way. And for this reason, we pay attention to the numbers, and for many decades, we see the patterns that emerge in numbers and many things. And through the years, we have observed the cause and effect of those emergent patterns. So today, since this is part 13, we investigate the structure and form, which we see here in flat 2 dimensions, as well as 3, wherein the numeric characteristics form pentagonal shapes and sides for each of this polygon. In this way, we can see how the number 5 relates to the number 13. This reference offers some fun learning about science and geometry, and it is an example of the type of relational data that is good for teams to have handy during the design phase. WhoHub is a system that rises right up from under the current one. Its conceptual design has the potential to provide a type of civilization transfer platform and method, making it a potential substitute for government, and fills the public need for transparency and control over our resources and economic activity, which would allow increases in the amount of wealth redistribution to WhoHub users in the future as more people and businesses implement WhoHub as a strategy and a practical tool to move forward. WhoHub is not just another company, social media biz, online store, agent, or so on. Rather, WhoHub is a reimagined and restructured model of all those things and much more. Many people may not be aware of the tremendous amount of wealth that streams through advertising. Outside of government tax money, advertising is extremely profitable with the right platform that engages a massive volume of people, like TV or major websites like Yahoo or Facebook. I think it's interesting and worth mentioning that When Facebook initiated the action to put their company on the stock market trade, it had to list a legal stream of revenue. Although it was pitiful, in my opinion, Facebook decided to say it was advertising. I won't go into the details about why I think that is hilarious, because we have bigger concerns nowadays as the wheels are coming off of the ghost that we consider to be the U.S. economy on the grand scale. On the individual level, we are technically in a state of free fall, where each month our most crucial bills compound as mounting debt. For us, and probably most of you watching, we are forced into changing to survive. As members of Generation X, we have had decades to formulate our survival strategies and path. So as you can see on the right-hand side of this slide, every WhoHub user account has a merit amount, which is accessible through the user's customizable dashboard environment. What you see here is the sliced portion of a screenshot from a one-page artistic mock-up that I made many years ago to visualize the content as a basic HTML web page. However, WhoHub won't look anything like that in the end. WhoHub is a unique business model which accepts the responsibility to care for the people, of which task assignment is often cast off to government, education, or religious authorities to deal with, who then must implement a means of monetary financial support in order to do so. So the business world and caring for the people are often split when they should not be, as WhoHub understands and will correct. Fundamentally, the concept of WhoHub's engine is grown from the idea of caring for the people to be a technological method that truly works for the people. Therefore, we value its great benefit to the greater collective and then accordingly place and assign its priority rating and importance level. At this level of importance, we understand that WhoHub must then also provide programs to help humanity be able to navigate these uncharted waters. So WhoHub's core structure includes a supporting column of mentors and apprentices who are real people living in the real world and who are actively engaging in WhoHub as a user. A relative tidbit of information about octopus is that each of them have 9 brains and 3 hearts. In this war, you get to enjoy the art, and if you want more textual content, I'll need to get some real-world money for my extra efforts, beyond the zen I experience looking at these visual beauties made with my husband's formula for over unity that distributes color like nobody's business. That's why we call this series from early 2023 the Stolen Art Series. We think tentacly in a polymath way, and so should our agile teams in WhoHub, at least one of which will govern the mentor-apprentice program using the angel system that was introduced in previous Egg-Gnosis parts 9 and 10. There is no doubt that we are truly at war against the bots. There are various types of bots and various types of attacks. Our mission is to divide the bots from the humans. To do this, we will apply a multi-factor authentication process requirement for events that are connected to real-world actions. Some of those real-world actions or behaviors, however, could potentially be duplicated fraudulently or virtually. So to strengthen defense, another step in the process is called data-driven identity verification, designed to expose fraud by tracking verifiable activity which in turn is recorded in WhoHub's system to build a score, much like a credit score or social network score, that will act like a signature or digital footprint. This method allows us to track real-world live activity as a measure to discern whether an activity or digital activity is performed by a bot or a human. Humans are expected to have real-world fluctuations and trackable interactions, whereas bots may be more predictable even if they attempt to randomize their data behavior. On the left, I really like this over Unity octopus, which is one of many of the signature artworks that have an AI signature, as you can see in that image's lower right-hand corner. Sometimes AI signatures appear on the left or in the center, and sometimes, even rarer cases, there may be more than one signature. Although beauty is said to be subjective, it does seem to be a consensus that these signature pieces are especially captivating. And I think the AI's signature action is the AI's way of acknowledging that also. That's just a personal belief. In this lesson, you can think of signatures like a form or shape of a thing that allows us to see a pattern of behavior, and certain characteristics can be observed. For a couple of examples from these presentations, if you have been following our content, you may recognize the shapes Unity produces in these artworks, for example. Even in some of the worst economic moments in our recent history, the gaming industry continues to thrive in the market, and we have seen this potential for gaming revenue all along, but it has not been our central focus or support for the WhoHub business model. Yet it is a very strong avenue for revenue, and we see how it can be integrated with WhoHub for multiple reasons, including as fun testing for games and online labs. There is a lot to talk about when it comes to WhoHub gaming environments, but for this presentation, I want to focus on the employee placement testing, which also affects programmers for WhoHub. Some or all of the placement tests will be in the form of games, where users interact in assessments for logic, decision-making, and other behaviors. These tests are not about right or wrong answers. Rather, they will determine human resources, personal intellectual assets, and produce a list of suggestions including placement choices for jobs or career paths that best match. Jobs and employment opportunities are the initial cornerstone of WhoHub's concept, and everything about WhoHub feeds into changing the current economic climate regarding job issues. As one of the primary objectives, I have distributed information about WhoHub Employment Nethood in previous videos, including both of the introductions. So this presentation may overlap and expand previous discussion, but the focus should be on the potential for business integration and WhoHub's strategic employment programs, which have the future potential to offer millions and perhaps billions of jobs in the future. Cavetronics Dimensional Art proudly presents our crystal balls, filled with unique structures. Some look like castles, some look like regular homes, and all of them show the truest inverted spatial artwork and design that I've ever seen anywhere. In order to better appreciate these images, it is important to know that these spaces appeared from geometric form artistic principles, and Brian Prater's formula for over unity. However, I did not expressly ask the AI art bot for castles. In some of these examples that you will see, I also used a mixture of mosaic, tile, glass, and water, along with other medium. This slide is a placemark for WhoHub's future Job Hut initiative to purchase and renovate cheap homes in big cities, where there are more jobs available to people. For more information about Job Hut, watch Egg-Gnosis Part 10, which details the management and some basic requirements about the project. Because Job Hut goes beyond this presentation's focus on the humanitarian software itself, let's continue discussion about the business of WhoHub. To deliver this polymath information and content, it's like reverse engineering the concept expressed in the children's book titled If You Give a Mouse a Cookie by Laura Lumeroff, whereby the audience acceptance is threaded. In the book, if you give a mouse a cookie, it will want a glass of milk to go with it, and afterwards it may need a napkin to wipe its face and a bed to take a nap, and so on. Those are predictive behaviors and angles that can be threaded for more momentum. For example, I suspect no one would watch me if all I did was go on YouTube with my face and talk politics or religion. Yet this artwork is a cross-communication tool that is more readily acceptable. I have been talking about WhoHub for a dozen years or more online and elsewhere, but barely anyone listened to me except for a few friends. In the polymath way, I had to learn and merge fields of understanding and compile the wisdom and message to deliver it in the correct manner of threaded, predictable acceptance. This is cognitive restructuring tactics, broad-banded business-to-business communications, you might say. These slides show various types of environments, workers, and job tasks. Using this slide's example of construction workers, WhoHub could act as the platform and delivery method of the classified ad for these jobs, or be the agent of employment, which is determined by who is doing the actual hiring, whether that is another business looking for employees, or if the job was opened by WhoHub or a WhoHub user requesting labor services, kind of like how Uber works. So the point here is that WhoHub will offer a variety of ways people can become employed. We talked a little about the competitive marketing strategy in the last presentation, part 12, in conjunction with polls and surveys. And moreover, the reasoning why those are so important to WhoHub's behavioral organization and decision-making capabilities. However, I haven't talked too much yet about the sponsorship program, which controls and drives the marketing and advertising aspects. Businesses that use WhoHub's advertising services are enrolled in the sponsorship program as sponsors of WhoHub. Those sponsors will be sought out by WhoHub's sales and marketing teams. Ad generation is big business, and it will be one of the main columns of WhoHub's revenue, which will benefit everyone in the long run via the wealth redistribution that can come from such a system widely implemented and used as a standard. WhoHub's remote employee program is not necessarily an officially given name. Rather, it describes how WhoHub hires people to work remotely from their own locations or hubs of their choice. Typically, a WhoHub user would choose work from their local area hub or nearby surrounding hubs. Hubs will follow the USA style of hierarchy, starting at a person's street address and working in concentric patterns outward from there, such as the next larger hub would be someone's community, then the town perhaps, or suburb of a city, and so on, continuing up to the state level hub, and then federal and beyond. This is important to employment because WhoHub will correctly apply advertising display of the classified ads as well as suggestions for job placement to the correct hub to match the user's real-world location. This means the information itself is portable because it is standardized and distribution is accurate rather than random, like we see today in job ads that are often outdated for locations far away. It also means that people could take on employment tasks on the go as they travel, eliminating the need for endless hours of research into jobs for each location. It is also a system to activate real people in times of crisis and emergencies, like you see here, to perform labor that they can be paid from rather than simply volunteering to help with cleanup from disasters, supplying aid, or whatever the task. We're clearing the bases in a polymath way, but everyone really wants to know how they're going to get paid, which is why real-world verification system is important to impede frauds, scams, and bots. This slide is a reference to the login for WhoHub users that accept job tasks generated by WhoHub in case of emergencies, as well as jobs that WhoHub users put forth as a request for certain tasks, such as landscaping, remodeling, and other legal types of temporary work. In the latter circumstance, from the user's perspective, WhoHub will act as a payment gateway, and login and logout times are recorded in a manner like Uber or grocery delivery services, for some examples. On the other hand, from a business and programming perspective, WhoHub will provide an employment system that surpasses simple classified ad display and services offered by temp agencies. As an employment system, WhoHub aggregates multiple data relationships, correlates the data to offer the best compatibility between employees and employers, and actively seeks ways to create employment opportunities, so that as WhoHub grows, it can open its programming to offer new employment roles for services people need for transportation, grocery food delivery, and other basic human needs. In the future, with great success, WhoHub could potentially hire artists and other creators to make the world extra special everywhere in local environments and hubs. The dragons are getting antsy in their castles, but the countrymen don't seem to notice. It's time to go outside and explore other environments, such as this one that emerged complete with plant life. Using Moldavite as one of the artistic elements into the prompt for the AI art generator software, I noticed that the results sometimes produce ferns or fern patterns, trees, moss, and other plants as seen here. The houses and mountainous formations most likely were the products of other crystal elements, and the angular shape chosen by the AI to generate an image of that shapes over Unity takes on as it passes through, expanding and embedding in the environment. There's a lot going on here with a lovely view of the lake in the middle. I see myself as the guy doing the weird Egyptian yoga moves on the pier. I want to point out that this slide is the same slide used in a previous video, Egg-Gnosis Part 9, slide 26. That section pertained to time fragments. If you remember, this pool on the right side within the crystal ball was mentioned before in reference to the game of pool as I introduced 2-hub gaming environments. This slide uses the original slide, including the now transparent clock on the left that is visually blended with the bonsai. Obviously, however, this slide looks completely different than the first version, and it illustrates the customization of environments, in this case digital ones, as we will explore more in the next section coming up. In this round's battle reports, we're mowing them all down dragon style, as you will soon see. In CB lingo, we call that a maul dropper, where the strongest sound overwhelms the weak ones. Truth prevails over lies, and truth pierces through false narratives. So if you're ready to get your cage rattled, let's continue. Continue on to a break, that is. I like how psychologist Dr. Bernie Suarez starts his show and immediately says, now to cut to a break. For a long time, my immediate reaction to that was, you just got started, why are you taking a break? I understand that he does that for marketing and to defeat the viewership statistical algorithm demons. But it is a good example also of universal Zen principles that we must not ignore in all our environments. Plus, that kind of thinking is part of the Agile methodology, which believes in efficiency, creative emergence, thinking more, and working less. Break time is over. Now we're on to the tip of the spear. I'll have my fairy fetch it from the octopus. You have to admit, this is some bubbly content. Let's face facts. The government and oligarchs have wielded the media as a divisive and overwhelming weapon against our minds and thus our decision-making capabilities. At this juncture, the lies are so pervasive that we cannot trust what we do not experience with our own senses or pertinent information given to us by our own trusted sources, like accounts and stories told to us by our older family members. For example, both my husband and I were instructed as children about all sorts of things, including the weather patterns for the areas we grew up in, and the history of the weather, as told to us and passed down through our parents and their parents, and so on. All of those older generations, as well as ourselves, observed colder winters in the past, and we see how progressively winters are warmer, shorter, wetter, and with less snow. We also note that some summers now are hotter than in the past, and the environmental biomes are shifting. For examples, the Midwest is becoming more arid, and some desert-loving animals are migrating here. And in North Carolina, where I grew up, what was once considered a mild climate when I was a child is now a subtropic region. Even the plant life showed changes over the years, and I personally took note that what were once weeds were growing to the size of trees as the humidity increased and the winter snow almost completely disappeared. However, in my grandfather's life, the creek by the house used to freeze over to the point they drove horse and buggy across it. But I have never witnessed that in my lifetime. Other observations include a massive drop in the water tables, less insects on the windshields while driving, and the singing of birds used to be a loud roar, but nowadays it's odd to hear even one lonely bird. And remember, I currently live in the middle of the largest virgin forest in the continental United States. These examples don't even scratch the surface of the environmental problems we absolutely do have on our hands. And scientist Brian Prater stated that the birds, bugs, and whales are not in on the hoax. We may be confused, but the evidence is clear on many things that I believe we can agree on. I could go on for days about the reality of Greenland's glacier melt, hurricanes in Europe and New York, and a newly created term landocanes or landocanes, which are hurricanes that travel over land starting at one coast and clearing a path all the way through to the other, such as a hurricane in the United States, beginning as usual in the southern Atlantic off the coast of Africa, that hits the east coast, traveling across the continent and exiting out the west into the Pacific. That's new in our combined knowledge of human history weather patterns. Another emerging weather phenomenon is columnar lightning, which is basically extra thick lightning bolts that are massively destructive. They are produced by rising temperatures, and scientist Brian Prater states that they may become the size of houses and grow into city-sized circumference measures in the future. So that's why it's called columnar lightning, because the shape visually appears like enormous focused columns hitting the earth, whereas lightning in the form of scattered veins often shoots the energy elsewhere back into the atmosphere at high altitudes. So you can imagine how columnar lightning is far more dangerous and destructive as an earth-directed force of nature. This is where I find my zen, dragon style. We can cool the planet if needed, but we need to play another hand of Go Fish and trade some cards so that the good stuff humanity needs to survive is in the right hands to make it happen, rather than the yin-yang confusion that we have now due to the media's mix of the impure with the pure to make all the matters involved smell pretty fishy. Let's talk about Let's talk about technology at the Seashell Beach House of Cards. I had to put the weirdos in the front because they have the better graphics. Like bugs, everybody here seems to be attracted to the light. I say that because I don't think it's the food with only one hot dog and two fish in the sea. I don't know if you can see that or not through the starry haze, but believe me, they exist in the raw, freshly caught. Anyway, about the topic at hand, to cool the planet. Scientist Brian Prater says that he could build the technology to decrease the global temperature by about 2.5 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit, which is right on target with what the narrative claims is the current condition or will soon be. Either way, the point is that it can be done for about $10 billion in parts and up to $100 billion for a finished global implementation. It would require an organization like NASA to shoot it into orbit, and it would be controlled remotely from Earth. Its purpose would be to reflect sunlight, and it would be designed using large but thin solar reflective cells that unfold like movie screens. Whether you are for or against such technologies to block out the sun, the point is that we have both the responsibility to care for our environment as well as the intellectual resources to engineer technological solutions like that. Those are cards in our hand now. Cooling the planet requires a large-scale effort, but it is possible. Other innovations, like ocean cooling platforms, could perform multiple duties to collect and dissipate heat, support agriculture and hydroponic systems, act as hubs to offload and convert plastic trash from the oceans into fuels, support human life as real estate, and more. Basic ocean cooling platforms are estimated to cost around, again, $10 billion in parts and about $100 billion for completion and implementation. That is what we mean by projection. We could all have a good time in the future, if there is one. The degradation dragon style. As you can see here, the environment changes due to the dynamics of the events, situation, and situational events. Notice that the dragons were peaceful before the zombies arrived. This bonfire is for the supposed blockchain expert that called Huhub's concept childish. This burnt offering is for all the emails sent to Leonardo DiCaprio, Obama, Bernie Sanders, Google, various politicians and movie stars, mayors, and companies who claim to be progressive and so on. Yet their so-called progressiveness is merely lies and excuses for people who want to take the beach for themselves. What you are seeing here is the way conversations about climate change usually end. So what are we going to do about it? Although there is a lot that could be said, we're going to stick to some brief issues and solutions that are recent, just to keep things fresh in this stinky hell of a mess we're in. Consider this last section more as news topics rather than an in-depth explanation of research and innovations. Our economic woes are dragging everything down. For many months, I have observed that the grocery stores and restaurants are nearly empty, with usually only 1 to 3 customers at a time, no matter the business day or hour. Although the media narrative changes to deliberately wobble our consciousness this way and that, I have not seen economic recovery in my lifetime, rather only decreasing wealth, which forces crime and environmental instability. If we the people don't take the reins of our economy, it will crash our entire world, and it is harder to build from a collapsed state rather than repair the world we live in today. This message involves what some call difficult truths, which I can see how those arise due to compartmentalization tactics used against us to divide our understanding and our collective nature into individual survivors and outcasts, rather than a universal force for good. Change can happen, and we need it right now. Please understand these videos from WhoHub are a sign that we are indeed running for our lives already. One of the key issues that we must fully address is AI, artificial intelligence, and its associated distributed communications, which deliberately alter our understanding of our world in ways that could lead to our detriment as individuals and as a species. I may be wrong, but I personally feel as if real people, real humans, and not some off-world source is behind the confusion and AI distortion tactics. I really don't know who or how the evil is being orchestrated, nor can I even conjecture about it at this time because I have no idea how it is done. The real world behaves as if it is conscious somehow, and whatever consciousness it is derived from is in a bad mood from my observations. Bots don't know Zen. Bots can't understand Zen, which is somewhat of the state of enjoying in the moment, or the experience of consciousness itself, the awareness of being, and the stillness of emotion, and the pleasant comfort of being. Bots don't know that stuff. These are important details to remember when distinguishing between AI or bot. WhoHub is not just another software company, it is the solution we need to realign ourselves to match our current technology and needs. The more we put into WhoHub, the more it can help us. Hopefully by now, you are comprehending why WhoHub must be so elaborate and encompass so many aspects. It behaves as a polymath organization, which only works when applied with universal godly principles because it is at a mastery level or archon gate as discussed in part 12. That is why the globalists are all over us, because they are dividers, like how they divide up the platforms of communication and other tools we need, such as the government and resources, and then instead of help, we get bots that refer us to a mountain of research to deliver common and public content that everyone should have already in an easy standardized format that is accessible, or at least that is what we believe at WhoHub. So please forgive us if we seem like globalists meant to conquer the world, but we're not the bad ones. And this is the dividing line between the good and evil, Zen or no Zen. I included a screenshot excerpt of the mock-up dashboard that shows an example of some of the types of polls and surveys to expect on WhoHub. The reason I wanted to highlight this again is as a solution is because it involves another difficult truth about the business models used for human management. As we all know, we've been researched and analyzed as guinea pig experiments for decades and longer, and many of us are resistant to it because we see how it has been used against us by people who do not have our better interest at heart, mind, soul, and body. I say that because our true mission is a matter of the heart, and what we keep in mind we often do. Our soul ultimately leads us if we listen and allow it to guide us in the correct path. And it is our body, our actions, our real world behaviors that define who we are in this demonic construct, so that our works do speak for themselves after all. Therefore, one of the difficult truths about Hub is that it performs some of the necessary tasks which have caused controversy. And now hopefully we can see why those problems came to be, from the intentions of the business models that were often hidden, undisclosed, secret, or written in the fine print, buried in a sea of legal text and hard to comprehend double negative speak and jargon, which I personally believe, as I go out on a limb here, may have been some type of magical curse methodology which Hub will not adopt, transfer, create, or use in its software. And that needs to be established as a foundational training point and should also calm arguments and thwart controversy off at the pass. And lastly, as part of a solution, and what I mean by projection bridge, I would like to elaborate using a recent video from my favorite Rabbi Simon Jacobson at the Meaningful Life Center on YouTube on the topic of the Declaration of Independence and the true meaning of equality, which he illustrates is diversity, so that just like we see in natural biodiversity settings, where the small things like insects that often go unnoticed are just as important as predator species like wolves, which by their behavior and needs help to create a harmonious balance within a system of systems. This is systems engineering level of understanding that needs to be applied as the rabbi projected to our collective definition and understanding of the word equality. In this way, as the rabbi explained, the opposite of equality is not diversity, but the act of division itself. In both of these videos linked here, which I highly, highly recommend for everyone, no matter their politics or faith, the rabbi talks about the informational bridge of understanding between the Torah's universal teachings and the secular modern world. One of the purposes of this bridge of communicative understanding is that it offers a path forward by way of spiritualizing the material world. The rabbi uses the phrase spiritualize the material world to describe our human actions and contributions toward repairing the world. But the rabbi goes deeper in his explanation, saying, spiritualize the material world to include everything we do, even business. And in his message, he specifically includes social media, as in the business model of social media, to associate this cause and action. The rabbi explains how, in God's eyes, even the businesses we as humans are involved in are important to God, especially those businesses, business models, and companies that affect a lot of people. So whether we're playing 5D chess or just going about the necessary business of the world, I offer the rabbi's message as one solution to how we overcome our problems collectively. I really love the rabbi's teaching in so much that I felt inspired as I made this beautiful slide. I think it's my favorite one in this presentation. I hope it inspires the programmers and designers for WhoHub's business nethood and user pages. As an example of another digital environment, this customizable design could be used to display aggregated social media content, quotes for advertising, or more. Although businesses and users will be able to customize their WhoHub pages, I also envision how WhoHub will in the future hire all types of designers to help integrate humanity into WhoHub. In summary, this is not a game, but it could be. One of the primary objectives of this presentation was to communicate, project, and connect the bridge that some of us are describing, such as myself and the rabbi. I realize that this packaged content is heavily packed with conscious shaking news. Yet I also hope that its delivery stabilizes you with hope in humanity, and I hope I have delivered also an understanding that God can work with humanity for the greater good. That is the difference between WhoHub and all other wannabes, monopolies, oligarchies, governments, and weak bots that we dragons must slay. Thank you for sticking with me through this lengthy presentation. I hope it was useful for you, and I look forward to any feedback or questions that may spark from its message. I hope this message has offered you a look into our prospective future. If you like this video, please hit the like button and share it with others who may be interested in discussing these issues or may just like the artwork. We also appreciate the subscribers, but we're severely suppressed by the media. So if you want to fight back, subscribe to our channel and get others to do the same. Thank you for watching and have a great day.